This video goes over the worksheet Genotypes and Phenotypes for alternative patterns of inheritance. On the one side of the worksheet, it shows you the variety of patterns that we're looking at for chickens for the first few problems. Now, we're going to be looking at the different types of inheritance we could have for the alleles that are shown here. So there's two different alleles, big B, little b. So parent 1 is homozygous big B, and the other parent, the male, is little b. We also have phenotypes, black plumage versus white plumage. Now, we can plug these genotypes into our Punnett square, and we get all offspring are big B, little b, and we take two of those offspring to make an F2 cross, and we can see the pattern here of 25% big B, 50% big B, little b, and 1% 25% little b. So let's see what happens when we start applying our rules for inheritance. Let's start with complete dominance. It says assume, for the first one, assume that big B is dominant and represents black feathers, and assume that little b is recessive and represents white feathers, or no black. Determine the feather color in the F1 and F2 generations. Since we have big B and little b, where big B is dominant and little b is recessive, this is going to be complete dominance. So this follows the rules that we're very used to, where if you have at least one of the two alleles as a big B, then that is the trait that is shown. It's going to overshadow the little b. So all you'll see is, in this case, the black plumage. Right? So all the offspring in the F1 are going to be big B, little b, right? Since that equals 100%, that means that they're going to be also 100% black feathered chickens. That is our F1. Right? Now if we look at the F2 generation, right, like we're used to, we're going to have a breakdown of a phenotype ratio of 3 to 1. So we're going to end up with 75% that are black feathered, right? Because we can see that in our boxes here. Big B, little b, big B, little b. 3 of the boxes there are 75%. And then we've got one box that's little b, right? So that's going to be 25% that are going to be white feathers. Again, this is complete dominance. We're used to this. This is a normal set of rules that we've been following, where 1, the large or capital case allele overpowers lowercase, right? Dominant overpowers recessive, especially if you have a hybrid. Now, like any situation, we have a dominant recessive, right? The recessive trait could be seen again in the F2 generation because it skips a generation. Now let's look at another type of inheritance. Alright, so in this case it says assume that big B represents black feathers and little b represents white feathers, and the alleles show incomplete dominance. Determine the feather color in F1 and F2 generations. We're still using the same parents, we're just changing the rules in which their genetics would work. So we still have a homozygous big B black plumage chicken and a little b white plumage chicken being crossed. But what we get different is that because we're using incomplete dominance, we should see all the offspring being heterozygous. Now, in the case of doing this, all offspring in F1 being big B, little b at 100%, it's not going to be black or white, but another phenotype. The phenotype is going to be gray. The gray phenotype, 100%, because that is the hybrid, because incomplete dominance shows intermediates. Now, for the F2 cross, if we take a look here, we see that one of them is going to be big B, right? That big B is is going to be only 25% of the Punnett square. So that also means that it's going to be having the black alleles. So we're going to have, for black feathered chickens, it's going to be 25%. We also have 2 big B, little b's, which means that they're going to be gray. Right? And we're going to have 50% of the chickens in the F2 generation are going to be gray. We have 1 box that's little b, which shows us the alleles for white feathers. So the white feathered chickens will be 25%. Now this is only because it's not necessarily dominant or recessive, but incomplete dominance, so the intermediate. Now, just like we saw in skipping a generation, right? Black and white skipped a generation, showing us the gray. But in this case, we have 50% of the offspring still could be showing the phenotype gray feathered chickens. These are the patterns that we'd see for incomplete dominance anytime you have an intermediate. The third problem has us looking at the same parents again, same genotypes, but this time we're changing the rules yet again. In this case, we're looking at codominance. With codominance, we have big B being dominant and represents black feathers, and little b is also dominant and represents white feathers. So big B being black feathers, little b being white feathers. We see this in our same diagram, but this time we're changing the rules in which how these alleles are inherited. We still get the same F1 and F2 breakdown. What's going to be different is what the phenotypes come out because of the difference in rules. So let's look at the F1 and F2 results. So for the F1, all offspring are going to be big B, little b. Since that is our genotype, and they're codominant, we're going to end up with black and white checkered chickens. So the phenotype is going to be black, white, checkered. That's 100%. So all the offspring between these two parents is going to be black and white checkered chicken because they're codominant. White and black are expressed equally throughout. Now, for the F2 generation, we're going to take 2 of those checkered chickens and cross them. So you're going to have the alleles big B, little b, and big B, little b being crossed, and even though we haven't changed the genotypes, we will see a change in the way that phenotypes are expressed. Now, we have 1 box that is, of course, big B, big B. That big B box is going to represent black chicken. It's going to be at 100%. It's going to be at 25%, right? 1 box in the Punnett square, so it's black feathers. We're going to have 2 boxes. They're going to be big B, little b, so they're going to be 50%. Because those 2 boxes represent checkered chickens, just like their parents. And we're going to have 1 box of little b, which represents, for codominance, white feathers. And it's at 25%. So unlike incomplete dominance, where we see intermediates, the gray being formed at 50%, we see checkered chickens being formed because they are codominant, meaning neither of them is dominant or recessive. For item number 4 on the worksheet, we're looking at another set of problems. It says assume that chickens can be black, capital B, brown, capital B with a superscript B, or white. It says that big B is dominant to little b with a superscript W for white, and is codominant with big B superscript for brown. Big B superscript B is incompletely dominant with big B, little b with W. Assume that the male parent is big B superscript B, and the female parent is big B superscript B, lowercase b, W. Sounds confusing, right? So what we're going to see here is something called multiple alleles. So first we have to decode what is the phenotypes of the parents. So here we have the male, here we have the female. So let's start with the male. Dad is black with his big B and brown. Now, big B is dominant to little b, so that doesn't compute, but what does is it's codominant with big B superscript B. So that means that dad is black and brown checkered chicken. Mom is big B superscript B and a lowercase b. Now, we know that this is going to be a brown phenotype, but because this one's recessive, right? Because it's recessive to it. Now, things that we got to worry about is that we know that it's going to be dominant too. So we got to look at how we're going to see this. This is going to be brown, a brown parent. So now we're going to have to go through and plug these in. So our Punnett square gets kind of interesting with all these different alleles. So let's take a moment here. We're going to plug it in. So the first box shows us big B, and big B with a superscript B means codominant, and it's just like the dad, so it's going to be black and brown checkered. Right? The next one over shows big B, superscript B, big B, superscript B, so that's going to be brown phenotype. Next one is big B, little b, superscript W, so that's going to be another brown. Oops, excuse me, that's black phenotype, right? Because big B is black, little b is white. On the next one, we got the brown from dad and the white from mom. That means that we got a brown phenotype. Now, something to note, because we have this incomplete dominance happening here, right? Mom isn't just brown, because this individual here, highlighted, is actually going to be more brown than mom actually is, right? So this is going to be like intermediate brown. Maybe we should call it tan, right? Because this one's going to have to be also lighter because it's got the W. That's going to make it incompletely dominant. So it has to have some type of intermediate. So we'll call it tan. You can call it khaki or whatever other color you would like to call it. So if we examine our outcome here, in total, right, we're going to have 25 in phenotypes, right? We're going to have a black, brown chicken as an offspring. It's going to be 25% of the time. That's going to be a checkered because it's codominant. We're going to have 25% that are just brown, dark brown, not like mom. Now, tan like mom, we're going to have 25%, because that's this box right here. And then we're going to have one box that's going to be all black, solid, because it has the recessive, 25%. So every box here represents a different genotype possibility. For the last problem, it says you want to breed chickens with black feathers. You have one chicken of each phenotype from question C. Decide which chickens to breed to reach your goal. Then draw a Punnett square to show the outcome of the breeding. What color are the chicken's feathers? Since we want to have black feathers, we need to use the alleles that come from dad's black allele, right? So we're going to need two of those different chickens. So the one allele, we had one, was the black and brown checker. Look like this, right? This is black and brown checker chicken. We're going to cross that chicken with the other black chicken that showed it probably had a recessive trait from mom, right? We're going to end up with these genotypes. All right. And we'll plug in our phenotypes. This is going to be a homozygous big B, so that's all black. This one's going to be black and brown. We here have a black one that's got the recessive allele, making it black completely, hiding the recessive. Right, there's our 2. And this one here is going to